Anything else you want add about hockey?
Nope. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Now is the portion of the podcast where Steve will be grumpy Steve. And that's not
after all this, amidst all this stuff to celebrate. How could that be possible?
You're fired up. I don't know that I've ever seen you. You're just annoyed, I think is a better word, right? How are you feeling right now, based on everything that's happening about Penn State
wrestling team dominating again
and everything going on?
I think it's wonderful that they won their 12th national championship in the past 14 years. I think they are the best program in the country right now. I don't know if that's going to wane. I just wish they would all be happier about it. Like, well, I mean, right? I mean, we're complaining about when the matches happen, right? We complain that we don't get enough attention when it's over. They're really good. They're special. Just embrace it and enjoy it, because you know, at the end of the day, and unfortunately for wrestling fans, it still is. And I love wrestling. Covered it, appreciated it, didn't participate, but I respect it even more so because of that. You're not going to outdraw the NCAA tournament. You're just not, in terms of basketball. Yes, there are things production-wise, I think probably inside the venue, and certainly that ESPN could do better. But I guess there's a big part of me that would just like them to quietly be dominant, smile, celebrate, and not grumble, I guess. I don't know. I think that's where my slight problem is.
I've written down several things I want to clarify here.
Okay.
When you say they,
Members of the wrestling team.
It's the wrestling team, or is it the fans? Because I feel like it's the fans that your annoyance is with right now.
Well, I think it's both. I mean, but the team sets the tone, right? I think they set the tone, and maybe it's not so much the team. I think Bo Nickel grumbling on social about how the team got attention or didn't, and I think the whole Carter Starace first match of the night thing that became a story that just wasn't a story. Like,
disagree.
Well, people are going to tune in. If you have casual viewers, they're going to tune in at the beginning and watch. Penn State had made the team championship moot by that point. So go ahead and get the great storyline out there first. And the analogy I haven't seen, and this is not for you, you're not going to appreciate this. Like, pro wrestlers will tell you that if you're not the main event on a big show, the best place to be is the first event.
A lot of people said this.
And I think that's true. So come out and you won. You're good. You've capped a wonderful career. And people ask you questions about it. I don't care when I wrestle. I'm just going to beat people. Give me that. Give me that arrogant guy, as opposed to the sport doesn't know what they're doing. Because I think maybe ESPN overthought it. Maybe, perhaps, right? Possible. Although it didn't look like they put a lot of thought into some other stuff. So kind of hard. I don't know. It just felt not unbecoming, because they're the champs. There's no doubt. I just think you didn't have anything to complain about. 177 points, clearly the best program in the country. Just celebrate.
Okay. See, here's where I disagree with you. I agree with. I do agree that I feel like wrestling is growing, but I do feel like the growth potential is not that of any of the other sports that is growing right now, particularly the women's sector of sports. Like, I think the growth potential there is massive. I think particularly basketball, I'm fascinated by the volleyball thing, but I do think that in a lot of ways, much like even softball, like the top tier of the sport is actually at the collegiate level. And I don't necessarily think there's a problem with that. And I think for wrestling, that is the reality that they live in, that the top tier of the sport in America for non-diehard wrestling fans is the collegiate level, in that, like, the Olympics matter every 4 years, Worlds matters, but that's to people that are really plugged in, aside for the Olympics really mattering just because of the cultural impact of the Olympics. So I do feel like this is, year in and year out, this is, as everybody said and their brother said over the last weekend, the biggest event for wrestling, and I don't know that it can necessarily get any bigger. What I had a problem with, and why I understand Carter's logic and why I understand a lot of people being fired up, I think there's a couple different factors, but I think the main factor is them starting with his match and pulling that one out of order, so to speak, and then cycling through so that the last match was the heavyweight match, which I think that was the correct decision. I think that one should have been the last match. I'm not a UFC guy, but I do know that in general UFC follows the kind of opposite pattern. You have the undercard fights, and then usually if you have two or a co-main event, it is the last two portions. To me, while I don't agree with the ideology a lot of UFC, I do think no sport has went from absolutely nothing to something very big and culturally significant now. Can say that with a fact by the fact that the president and a lot of other people are showing up to those events, that it's grown impressively, and I think that's a better model. And I understand. I think the only devil's advocate in that argument is the reason I was a little bit okay with it after I settled down on it, they broke the team points record with Carter's win, and I think that's cool. I just feel like ESPN missed the mark in terms of putting that first, because I think that's not, like, I think going back to the growth thing, I don't think that's going to grow the sport by putting that first. I think what's going to grow the sport is some of the other stuff that they did, that I think they did a better job on. But I do think there were a lot of other things that we can get into here in a second that they completely missed on in the weekend.
What some of the other stuff they did that was going to grow the sport?
I think.
You mean the team's accomplishments? You mean, or what production-wise we talked about?
I think they have done. We talked about this last week. I think the technology piece to a lot of this is massive, and the fact that I could sit around last week, and watch every single match that I wanted to watch, particularly with the mat cast or the ISO on a specific mat, like on, I think it was Fridays, both Friday sessions, I had those 4 mats that Penn State's like championship guys, like still in the championship chase guys, were competing on. I had those pulled up on a screen so that I could watch all 4 of those at once while I was watching basketball. I think that's technologically, like, that's so impressive, and I think that's something that they've done to help grow the sport. Where I think they miss, or where they struggle, is, back to your point, they're always going to be second or even probably third fiddle to both basketball tournaments going on this weekend. And what I struggled with in terms of production value, which we talked about a little bit, and you hinted at in your article, is BTN, for when they do a Rutgers Maryland match on a Friday night, and there's 20 people in the stands, and there might be 100,000 people, if that, they're lucky, that are watching on TV, and it just happens that it's on at the bar. Their production value is twice that of what ESPN provided. Between much of Thursday's matches, none of the score bugs were working properly. Really just the quality of level of education. I actually didn't even watch much of the matches, any of the matches really, with sound on, because I just knew that I was going to get frustrated by that, and that might be a Penn State issue, just not necessarily seeing eye to eye with Jordan Burroughs. But I think they missed the boat in a lot of ways, of like, they get this thing for it. It's kind of like when IndyCar was like only like ABC would have that one IndyCar race, and that happened to be the Indy 500, and then the rest of the year that was an NBC product, right? Like it just didn't make sense. And I feel like that's kind of sort of where we're at. And obviously I know that the contract doesn't work that way, but I don't think they grew the sport that way. I do think they did a nice job meeting the moment with the Gable Stevenson fight and the Wyatt Hendrickson moment. Like I think they got that absolutely right. I do.
Yeah, I think so. I think it culminated the right way. I think going back to the championships, it feels like wrestling is part of a package you buy from the NCAA, right? You get women's volleyball, you get women's basketball, you get softball, and wrestling, along with other championships. And wrestling's probably third on that list of those, probably. I mean, it's behind women's basketball. It's behind women's volleyball. It's behind softball.
One more sport. Happens in Nebraska every year. That I think they're the biggest reason why it's trending up right now.
Did I say it all about?
No. Happens in the summer in Nebraska every year.
Oh, baseball.
Yeah. I think,
Right.
I think that's, and I think that is seeing that.
Well, right, because you get so many nights of those teams too.
Right.
That's the other thing for the World Series. You get so many nights of programming. So realistically, it's fifth or sixth, whatever we just put in ESPN's hierarchy of whatever. And if you're the sport, I mean, you're NCAA, so it's an NCAA sanctioned thing, so they're not going anywhere else. They're going to be under that umbrella. They're not going to peel it off and go somewhere else because ESPN is still the most visible place you're going to get. And if you got Flow Wrestling to pay for more and pulled yourself out of it, well, then you've killed your visibility. You've killed your ability to find a casual fan. So they're in a tough spot. Yes, ESPN could have done better. And I'm not dying on the Strachey, should have been first hill, but I understand it. And they put themselves in a spot because this was different. They've pulled matches out before, but then they've still gone around and wait to come back to the one at the end, or they've started at a weird wait to come back to the one at the end. This one they pull out and then they start up through. So I get it. It's different, but you do that with sports, right? Like, let's try something different to see if we can get a casual viewer and get whatever else. So maybe they missed. I don't think they missed egregiously. But at the same time, I think if you're Penn State, I don't know. I guess I was brought up on the quiet. This is pre-old guy, young guy, and I don't know where. Shut up and play. Like, shut up, be respectful. Don't draw attention to yourself and just be good. That was what I thought Penn State student athletes were, at least were in my time. And I'm not saying they're not good people, but okay, they lined them. They wanted me to go first. I'm just going to beat them whenever they put them out there, right? And I don't know. So that's the part that rubbed me a little bit wrong. That's all.
I do wonder between like AJ Ferrari and just like the Cornell guy that's saying that one of the Penn State wrestlers was doing steroids or intimated that. Mm-hmm. Like, I do wonder if like this, like that is creeping into what you're getting at. I think, I guess
there's a little UFC trickle down.
Yes,
which I don't think is good. What would be better, but it doesn't happen. I don't think I'm going to say this, but I don't tick anybody off too much, like local media wise, but like it doesn't happen in coverage of Penn State either. Like, I don't know. I think Josh Moyer did the story leading up to nationals on, was it KSAC and raising goats. One of the wrestlers from Penn State, grew up on a goat farm, and the responsibility. That was really the first feature I've seen about a kid other than off-mat stuff the whole year, right? The people that cover it hard and fast, it's about rivalries. It's about Gabe Arnold and Carter Starocci. It's about recruiting. It's not about personalizing people and telling stories. And I feel like there may be some value there, but if you got 20 people in 10 matches back to back, once you get the nationals, it's tough to have the time to tell that. And especially Thursday, Friday, when you've got all those matches, it's tough to do that. So it feels like there could be something there, but I just don't know what you do with it, which is probably why it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like for how much growth that the sport feels like wrestling is going under, and I do struggle with that because anybody listening to this podcast, including the two people talking on this podcast, like, we are inherently biased because we have the best wrestling program. We're tied to the best wrestling program in the country, maybe in the world. And I do wonder, I was thinking about that from this perspective of like the new Big Ten schools, right? Like, none of them have wrestling. Do they even know that like this is pretty essential? And then I kind of like was also thinking about it in the college hockey lens of like, I was talking to somebody that went to North Dakota this weekend, and like that, and then like just like all of the like the fact that Penn State's playing Maine, which doesn't play, it has other Division I sports, but does not play Division I sports to the level that Penn State is at, or really, there are very few Power 5 schools that play hockey, and it's hard to like forget or it's. I think it's important to remember that this is all happening within a bubble, and that bubble can only get so big regardless of what sport it was, which I think is kind of some of the, maybe to the point you were trying to get at this week with the blog post. So I think that's fair. I'm glad we talked through your grumpiness.
See, I didn't get grumpy. Look at that.
Okay, proud of you. Is this team better than last year's team?
Numbers say they are, don't they? I mean, the team total says they are. The champions don't say they are, right?
And the 10 All-Americans
and that's what makes it fun. Like, right? I mean, that's what makes like 10. You know, yes. I mean, I guess you'd have to make that argument, right? By a sliver.
The national champion thing is sticking out to me because they had 4 national champions last year.
Yeah, but they had more points this year, and they had all 10 guys as All-American. You know.
Yeah.
So this team, top to bottom, may be a sliver better.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right. Anything else wrestling-wise we want to chat through, talk about? No?
Nope.
Okay. Perfect. Got the whole
through that without getting in trouble. We're going to just...
Yeah, that was good. That's good. I think we were fair.